This is May 29th, 1453, the final day of the Byzantine Empire. An empire that has stood for 1,123 years is about to die in a single morning. And using AI reconstruction, you're about to see exactly how it happened. Welcome to Constantinople in 1453. Using advanced AI technology, we've reconstructed the greatest siege in medieval history. The triple-layered walls that seemed unbreakable, the massive Ottoman cannons that shattered them, the city as it looked on its final day, and the desperate battle that ended an empire. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why these legendary walls failed. But first, you need to see what made Constantinople untouchable for 1,000 years. Because what you're about to witness shouldn't have been possible. Let's step back in time. This is the Theodosian Wall, and for 1,000 years, it was the most formidable defensive system ever built. Look at what we've reconstructed here. 3 massive walls arranged in layers. The outer wall stands 40 feet high and 15 feet thick, solid stone. Behind it, a second wall rises 60 feet, bristling with battlements. And behind that, the inner wall towers at 40 feet, with 96 massive defensive towers spaced every 55 meters. Between the outer and middle walls runs a 60-foot wide terrace called the Peribolos, a killing ground where attackers are trapped. Between the middle and inner walls, another terrace. And in front of everything, a moat 60 feet wide and 30 feet deep. To attack Constantinople, you must cross the moat while defenders rain arrows down, scale a 40-foot outer wall, fight across the first terrace completely exposed, scale a 60-foot second wall, fight across another terrace, scale a 40-foot inner wall, survive 96 towers filled with archers, crossbowmen, and Greek fire. 23 armies have tried to take Constantinople through these walls. 23 armies have failed. The Avars in 626 failed. The Arabs twice in 674 and 717 failed both times. The Bulgarians repeatedly failed. Even the Fourth Crusade in 1204 only succeeded by attacking from the sea, avoiding these land walls entirely. For over 1,000 years, these walls have never been breached, but Sultan Mehmed II isn't bringing siege towers or battering rams. He's bringing something that's about to change warfare forever. This is the Basilica, the largest cannon ever built up to this point in history. Look at the scale we've reconstructed here. It's 27 feet long, weighs 19 tons, as much as 4 elephants. The barrel is 30 inches wide. It fires stone balls weighing 1,200 pounds, over half a ton of solid rock, and when it fires, the sound can be heard from 10 miles away. To move this single cannon from Edirne to Constantinople, just 140 miles, required 60 oxen and 200 men. It took 2 months. Roads had to be reinforced, bridges had to be rebuilt just to support its weight. And when it fires, the recoil is so violent that the entire cannon mechanism has to be repaired after every 7 shots. But Mehmed doesn't have just one cannon. He has 70. Picture what we've reconstructed here, April 6th, 1453. Dawn, the Ottoman army surrounds Constantinople. 50,000 soldiers stretching from the Golden Horn to the Sea of Marmara in an unbroken line. The tents, the banners, the siege camps, and then, positioned along the walls, the cannons. The basilica fires first. The impact shakes buildings a mile away. The 1,200-pound stone ball arcs through the air and slams into the Theodosian Wall with the force of a meteor. Stone explodes. Dust clouds rise hundreds of feet. And when it clears, there's a crater in the wall 3 feet deep. The Byzantines have never seen anything like this. Medieval siege weapons, trebuchets, catapults, could chip away at walls over weeks or months. These cannons are pulverizing them in days. The basilica fires twice a day. That's all it can handle without breaking. But the other 70 cannons fire constantly, day after day, week after week. The bombardment never stops. By late April, entire sections of the wall are collapsing. The defenders work frantically through the night, piling rubble, reinforcing with timber, filling gaps with barrels of earth and anything they can find. But they can't repair faster than the cannons can destroy. The Byzantines are fighting with 1,000 years of tradition. Mehmed is fighting with gunpowder, And gunpowder doesn't care about tradition. This is Constantinople on the eve of the final assault. And it's a shadow of what it once was. Walk through our reconstruction of the city streets. The city that once held 400,000 people now has barely 50,000. You can see entire neighborhoods abandoned, empty houses, collapsed roofs, streets overgrown with weeds. The ruins from previous sieges still stand unrepaired. Constantinople in 1453 is dying even before the Ottomans breached the walls. The Hagia Sophia still dominates the skyline, its massive dome visible from anywhere in the city, the greatest church in Christendom. But look around it. Much of the surrounding city is empty. Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos commands 7,000 defenders total. Maybe 2,000 are trained soldiers. The rest are civilians, merchants, craftsmen, monks, armed with whatever weapons they could find. Old swords, makeshift spears, crossbows, against 50,000 Ottoman soldiers. The math is brutal. There are 7 defenders for every 100 meters of wall. When the Ottomans attack at multiple points simultaneously, gaps open immediately. The defenders can't be everywhere, and everyone inside these walls knows it. By early May, food is running low, no supply ships are getting through. The Ottoman navy controls the Bosporus. You can see it in our reconstruction. The empty markets, the closed shops, the desperate faces of people who know what's coming. Morale is collapsing. Some defenders are sneaking out at night, surrendering to the Ottomans, begging for mercy. But Constantine refuses to surrender. Mehmed has offered him generous terms. Leave the city, take your family, live in peace as a governor in the Peloponnese. The siege ends. No one else has to die. Constantine's answer, I will not leave. The city and I will fall together. On May 28th, the night before the final assault, Constantine addresses his commanders in the Hagia Sophia one last time. Look at the scene we've reconstructed. The massive interior lit by thousands of candles, the golden mosaics glowing in the flickering light, the exhausted defenders packed inside. He says, the city is falling, but we are Romans, and Romans do not surrender. That night, the entire remaining population prays in the Hagia Sophia. Orthodox priests, Catholic priests, civilians, soldiers, everyone who's left. They're praying for a miracle. They won't get one. May 29th, 1453. 1:30 a.m. The drums start. The entire army, 50,000 soldiers, begins to move in the darkness. From the walls, the defenders can hear them before they see them. Thousands of footsteps, the rattle of armor, war cries in Turkish, and then the cannons open fire, all 70 guns. Simultaneously, the basilica, everything. The noise is apocalyptic. The walls shake, stone explodes in massive clouds of dust. Defenders are thrown from the ramparts by the shockwaves alone, not even hit by projectiles, just knocked off by the force of the impact. The first wave hits the walls, Mehmed's irregulars, poorly armed, poorly trained, expendable troops. They're carrying wooden ladders, throwing them against the damaged sections of the outer wall, climbing as fast as they can. From the towers, arrows rain down. Stones, boiling oil poured from the battlements. Greek fire, the Byzantine secret weapon, a napalm-like substance that burns even on water, is hurled down in clay pots that shatter and engulf the ladders in flames. The irregulars are slaughtered. Hundreds die in the first 15 minutes. But that's the entire point. They're not meant to take the wall. They're meant to exhaust the defenders, drain their arrows, drain their oil, drain their Greek fire, drain their strength. The second wave comes at dawn. Anatolian Turkish troops, better trained, better armed, better coordinated. They hit the walls in organized groups, focusing on the sections most damaged by the cannon bombardment. The defenders are already exhausted from fighting for 3 hours straight. Gaps are opening in their lines. Some Turkish soldiers make it over the outer wall onto the peribolos. Now the fighting is hand-to-hand. Swords, spears, axes, maces, blood on stone, bodies piling up in the terraces between the walls. And then the third wave arrives. The Janissaries, the elite, and this is where everything the Byzantines thought they knew about warfare falls apart. The Janissaries are the Ottoman Empire's elite infantry. Look at our reconstruction of their armor and weapons. Full chainmail, steel helmets, curved sabers, composite bows. These are the best trained, best equipped soldiers in the medieval world. They're taken as boys from Christian families across the empire, converted to Islam, trained for war from childhood, loyal only to the Sultan, and they're fresh, rested, while the Byzantine defenders have been fighting without sleep for 3 hours. Around 5 a.m., the Janissaries reach the section of wall near the St. Romanus Gate, one of the most heavily damaged areas. The wall here has been pounded by the basilica for 7 weeks straight. The Byzantines have filled the gaps with rubble and timber, but it's barely holding. And then a group of about 50 Janissaries find something. A small gate, the Kerkaporta, a tiny postern door in the outer wall used for sorties. And someone forgot to lock it during the chaos. 50 Janissaries slip through, then 100, then more. They're inside the outer wall now, behind the Byzantine defenders, attacking them from the rear. Panic spreads like fire. At the exact same moment, a Genoese commander named Giovanni Giustiniani, the best soldier on the Byzantine side, a legendary mercenary who's been holding the most critical section of wall, is struck by a projectile. He's badly wounded. His men carry him from the walls toward the harbor, trying to evacuate him to a ship. The other defenders see Giustiniani being carried away. They think he's fleeing. They think the battle is lost. And they break. Soldiers abandon their posts, running, trying to reach the harbor, trying to find ships. But there are no ships. The Ottoman navy controls the entire sea. The Janissaries pour through the Kerkaporta. They reach the main gates from inside and open them. The entire Ottoman army floods through. Constantinople is falling, and Emperor Constantine does something no Byzantine emperor has done in 1,000 years. Constantine XI is in the palace near the walls when he hears that the city has been breached. He could run. There are still a few ships in the harbor. He could escape to Italy, to the Peloponnese, live in exile, try to rebuild. He doesn't. Watch what happens in our reconstruction. Constantine removes his imperial regalia, the purple robes, the crown, all the symbols that mark him as emperor, so he won't be recognized and taken prisoner. He takes a sword, and he walks out of the palace, toward the walls, toward the breach, toward the fighting. His advisors beg him to flee. He refuses. He says, "The city is fallen, and I am still alive." And then he disappears into the chaos of the battle. No one knows exactly how Constantine XI died. Byzantine sources claim he charged into the Ottoman ranks and was cut down fighting as a common soldier. Ottoman sources say he was trampled in the chaos and his body was never identified with certainty. What we know for sure, Constantine XI, Palaiologos, the last Roman emperor, died on the walls of Constantinople on May 29, 1453, fighting alongside his men. An empire that began with Augustus in 27 BC, 1,480 years earlier, ends here. The Romans are gone, and the Ottoman Empire is just beginning. For 3 days after the walls fall, Mehmed gives his army permission to loot Constantinople. It's the ancient custom, the reward for taking a city by force. What happens next is brutal. Churches are ransacked, homes are looted. The Hagia Sophia, untouched for 916 years, is stripped. Golden altar pieces torn down, mosaics smashed, icons thrown into the streets. Thousands of civilians are killed, thousands more are enslaved, marched out of the city in chains to be sold in Ottoman slave markets across the empire. But on the 4th day, May 31st, Sultan Mehmed II enters the city. Watch what we've reconstructed. He rides through the streets to the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in Christendom, built by Emperor Justinian in 537 AD. For 916 years, the heart of Orthodox Christianity. Mehmed dismounts at the entrance. He picks up a handful of dust and pours it over his head, a gesture of humility before God. Then he walks inside. The interior is massive. The dome soars 180 feet above the floor. Sunlight streams through the windows. The mosaics, Christ, the Virgin Mary, the saints, still gleam in gold despite the damage. Mehmed orders the Hagia Sophia converted into a mosque. Not destroyed, converted. The Christian mosaics are plastered over, not smashed, but covered. Minarets are constructed outside. But the building itself, the dome, the arches, the structure, is preserved. Mehmed sees himself not as a destroyer of Rome, but as its inheritor. He declares himself Kaiser-i-Rum, Caesar of Rome. In his mind, the Roman Empire hasn't ended. It's just changed rulers. Constantinople is gradually renamed Istanbul. Though it won't become the official name for centuries, it becomes the capital of the Ottoman Empire. And it will remain one of the greatest cities on earth for the next 470 years. The walls that held for 1,000 years fell in 54 days. But not because they were weak. The fall of Constantinople wasn't just the end of an empire, it was the end of the Middle Ages. When Constantinople fell, thousands of Greek scholars fled west, to Italy, France, Germany, carrying ancient manuscripts that had been preserved in Byzantine libraries for centuries. Plato, Aristotle, Euclid, mathematical and philosophical texts that had been lost to Western Europe for 1,000 years. This flood of knowledge directly sparked the Italian Renaissance. The fall also severed the old trade routes between Europe and Asia. Silk, spices, gold. Everything that used to flow through Constantinople was now controlled by the Ottomans, who charged extortionate tariffs. This is why Columbus sailed west in 1492, searching for a route to India. Because the old route through Constantinople was gone. The fall of Constantinople changed the map of the world, but it proved something even more important. Walls don't matter anymore. Castles, fortresses, city walls. For 1,000 years, they'd been the ultimate defense. If you had strong walls, you were safe. Cannons ended that forever. Within 50 years, every major European power was redesigning their fortifications. The age of the medieval castle was over. The age of gunpowder warfare had begun. This is what you came here to see. Not just how the walls fell, but why it changed everything. This is Constantinople in 1453, an empire that survived for 1,123 years. Walls that held back 23 sieges, a city that believed it would last forever. And in 54 days, it ended. Not because the defenders were weak, they fought to the death. Not because the walls were poorly built, they were the strongest in the world. But because the world had changed, and Constantinople didn't change with it. The Byzantines were fighting with swords, shields, and Greek fire. Mehmed was fighting with mathematics, engineering, and gunpowder. Medieval warfare died on these walls. Today, the Theodosian walls still stand. You can visit them in Istanbul. Walk along them. Touch the stone, see the exact spots where the Ottoman cannons smashed through. The city is now home to 15 million people, one of the largest cities on Earth. But on May 29, 1453, standing on these walls, you would have watched the final day of Rome. This was Constantinople, the last day of the Roman Empire. Which city should we visit next? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you in the past.